Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Comic Chat with Gat. We are a weekly show devoted to all things comic books and popular culture. And this week, we're going to have a bite-sized one because we had a great episode last week devoted to Doctor Strange 101, which you can see right here. So you can learn all about Doctor Strange as a new Marvel character.
Yeah.
And then we're doing some background research, we as in Taylor, on how there might be a copycat in the DC universe of the Doctor.
We'll talk about that a little bit later.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's start our show with the segment we always start our show with, Last Week in Comics.
Okay, so last week there was more things that came out that I bought that I didn't even get a chance to read, but I have a couple.
How many things came out last week?
I mean, there was the two of the remaining issues of Vader Down, so I didn't get to read those, which is
The final issues
both
are out?
of them. Yeah.
Oh, they just want to shove that crap out.
It was
They're
weird,
done.
yeah. It was
They're
kinda
sick of it.
They're not sick of it.
They're Vader down.
No,
Get out of here.
It's really good.
Not a fan of it.
Anyway, so I was disappointed I didn't get to read that because it was both Darth Vader 14. No, yes, Darth Vader 14 and 15. I was like, both of them came out. No, wait, it was Star Wars 14 and Darth Vader 15 because last week I said
You messed up.
Yeah, I really messed up.
You messed
and
up.
I said
the internet backlash was brutal.
I just
it was
couldn't.
brutal.
The tweets coming in.
They were
and just
swear
emails,
words. I didn't even
emails?
know they knew you were Jewish. That was the part that scared
How
me.
did they? I mean, if they saw any of the episodes.
Well, okay, I didn't say it. That's fine. Shalom.
Anyway.
Here's our episode to our Christmas and Hanukkah unboxing.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
I do these edits.
So, but yeah, so it was actually Darth Vader 14 last week that I was talking about, and I read the wrong cover, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay,
Yeah.
so disappointing on my end that I realized that as I was putting it up, I was like, this is not the right.
This
thing.
doesn't seem right.
Yeah, but anyway, both
But
of them
it's
are good.
finally ended in. Is it 2 issues? Is it a compact?
Yeah,
Is it like a double?
so it's Star Wars 14.
Okay. Which is
and-
part 5 of 6,
And Darth Vader 15,
which is the finale.
6.
Does that tie up all of the other strings, or just the Vader Down series and no more Darth Vader comics?
So, no, what's weird... Okay, so that's something I'm going to talk about, too. I guess maybe I'll talk about that first, then. Last week, the trade for Volume 2 of Darth Vader came out. So I read the trade for Volume 1, like, the Sunday, and then this came out on Monday or Tuesday, and so I was kind of just reading all the way through. And this got better, and you really understand the extra characters and stuff, like the droids and where they came from and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it's interesting because you could just read Darth Vader... This is 1 through, I think, 7 through 12 or something. And then you read 13, 14, 15, and that would be Vader Down in the middle of it, but you'd have to get those other ones to get all the parts of it. But you could still read that and just be part of the story. And Vader's continuing on, and I'm glad because all of it's really good. I really enjoyed Volume 2. I really like all of the tension between Darth Vader and the Emperor and stuff, the stuff that you don't really see watching 4, 5, and 6 continuously, but you do see more when you watch 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6.
Is it like a dad tension?
It's more like a
Dad,
guy that...
come on.
No, it's more like a guy that screwed you over and didn't help you know that you had children because your wife, Padme, who you really loved, was killed because of the Force or something like that, just like what happened in 3.
How did Padme die?
Of a broken heart.
Star Wars. Midichlorians.
But he didn't know he had a kid, and then he figures it out, and then it has really cool flashbacks to him and how much
I'm sorry,
loves.
she didn't die from a broken heart, did she?
Yeah.
When? When in that movie?
In 3. That's
Natalie Portman died from a broken heart in Star Wars Episode 3.
Yeah, because, okay, what happened was the doctors were working on her trying to get the
Sorry,
babies out.
we'll get back to the actual
The
show.
doctors were working on her
to
trying to get the babies out, right? Because she was pregnant, and then they're
because
like...
a long time ago they didn't have
They're like, she's
birthing
lost
equipment.
the will to live.
Oh, God.
And she died. However, there is a rumor, quote-unquote rumor, but or a fan theory or whatever you want to call it, that the Emperor, because she died the same time Vader came to life, basically, the Emperor was siphoning her life force to make Vader live.
Can he do that? That's a force power?
Apparently,
Siphoning
because
life
that's
force?
kind of like when he was talking about Darth Plagueis, his mentor, that could feign death and cheat death and stuff, and he could make people live or die on his will. Supposedly, that's what people are saying that he could probably do.
Okay.
And so that's a theory that I think almost makes I prefer that than dying of a broken heart. However, that is a thing that happens to people, right? I saw The Notebook.
I haven't seen The Notebook.
You should. That's a good movie. It's pretty good.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. So Vader Down. We're gonna read the concluding issues
And
of that.
talk about it next week.
It's a solid 6 issues. The first issue, I said this every time. The first and third issue are great. The second issue drags. I haven't read the fourth yet, and it's a cool story. Art is great. Art style is very pretty.
It's very Star Wars
Yeah.
too. I mean, it really gives you that.
That's something.
You're such a Star Wars negative Nancy. Anyway, Both of these trades are great. Both Darth Vader Volume 1 and 2. And
Okay.
I think that I kind of still want to get back into Lando and see what that's all about. But right now, this is my favorite
Rest in peace.
thing. Because
Boba Fett.
Lando could still be alive. We don't know. Anyway, very good. So, awesome.
All right, good. So Darth Vader, you should go and check it out. Volume 1 and Volume 2 are out there now.
Yep.
But then the one that I was anticipating very highly, I'm assuming you're talking about?
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Then this week, SpiderMan / Deadpool came out.
Yeah.
So the crossover or like the team up comic, and I like the cover. It's great. I think it's Run DMC. I could be wrong. But
I could not tell you.
It's
Why?
it's their popular rapper covers.
Got it. Okay, that's a common thing.
I'll figure it out.
Yep.
And it was pretty good. I actually
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. At first, I don't know. Sometimes Deadpool, I feel like it's getting so popular that it starts to grain on you.
Yeah, I tried to read.
I liked those, like the ones you read that you didn't like, but I also read them 4 years ago or something.
Right. Well, I read them in a row. Like I would just finish trade after trade after trade and read them. Like I did that with Batman with the
but
Snyder
those you
Capullo.
could
That was
just-
perfect. I did that with Flash leading up to Flashpoint, but I tried doing the same thing with Deadpool and I just couldn't do it. It wasn't. It didn't. It got annoying.
Yeah,
guess is
and I
the
think
word.
he's kind of in that. But what's cool about this comic is Spider-Man hates him as much as you do, kind of.
good.
And so he's just like, dude, just get away from me. And then like Deadpool like bamps him in to fight Dormammu, which we talked about last week. So Dormammu
Yeah.
was in this Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange villain.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
super cool. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
ooh, Dormammu! Like that was like the first. It's like the first like when you first open the book, and I was like, well, this is interesting. So that was pretty cool. I like the
Weird
banter.
question.
Yeah.
Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
But this is after he's the CEO of Parker Industries.
Got it.
But it looks like it said issue 2 is coming, and it looked like both Miles Morales and Peter Parker teaming up to fight Deadpool.
Oh.
So, or
Interesting.
like because Deadpool is screwing things up because Deadpool thinks he's doing a good thing, but he's not because
Naturally.
he's Deadpool. But there were some really funny lines in there. Like I think that it's worth your time if you just want to read something funny. Kind of just be like, well, I like Spider-Man and I like Deadpool because I mean I do like Deadpool, but he's so everywhere. He's like the new Wolverine.
Yeah.
Wolverine was like everywhere.
Yeah, but Wolverine never really graded on me just because I loved how negative he was.
But also, you never read anything.
No, well, Old Man Logan was good.
Well, yeah.
And I
but
watched all the
that's-
movies. But that should count. This kind of negativity in the comic book world is why people don't get into comic books.
Okay, Chris. So,
How many issues of the
I don't know. It's an ongoing
collaboration?
series right now, so I don't know.
Really?
They could end it at any moment, or they could.
Could end it. The very last issue is going to be next month, number 2, and it's going to say, "Go see the Deadpool movie." Done.
That'd be actually pretty funny.
That'd be fun. Oh, we're gonna set up a new. That would be a Deadpool thing. We're gonna do this new series, and it's gonna be Spider-Man and Deadpool, and it's 2 issues.
And then he's also like, and at the end of it, it's like, oh, go see the Deadpool movie.
Bye.
Because he does break the fourth wall and stuff like that. So
Yep.
it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And,
Okay.
it was that. Big one this week. You didn't like it, right? I don't think. Anyway, the big one this week.
It's not that I didn't like it.
Archie number 5.
It was our Archie number 1 was our comic of the year last year.
It
The series
was.
continues to be very good.
Yes.
But I will say what they're establishing now in number 5 is they're clearly moving away from the lipstick incident, which is fine. It was revealed. But they're also moving away from the Archie. I'm sorry, the name Betty is the one we like.
Betty.
Betty's the blonde one, right?
Yes.
I guess that's Betty.
Betty
Blonde.
Cooper.
So they're moving away from that whole relationship
Robert
where
Gouache.
it's like Jughead and
Jones.
Betty are more working together, and they're trying to get Veronica away
Rangers.
from Archie. And then there's that dude who I don't even know.
It's Reggie.
Reggie. Okay, so
That
Reggie.
snake.
I don't care for Reggie.
Yeah, but
as
he's
a character.
he's a fun villain. I like
He's
Reggie.
a fun villainish thing, but I mean,
He's
otherwise,
always been the bad guy of the Archie comics.
Oh, well, that's news to me. So it's good. You can read it. It was a quick read.
I liked it. I liked
good
it.
art style, so
The
that
art
was fun.
style's good. The
ending made me
Veronica
sad, too.
Fish. Oh, I know. I was like,
When I'm thinking more about it, yes, I'm enjoying it more and more when I think about it. But again, it's for the people who want to read a comic book that's not full of like it's a realistic comic, so it's not full of sex as a realistic way to tell a story. It's literally just a piece of.
It's a teen drama.
Yeah, it's
but
a teen drama. It's a
teen drama.
CW show
It's
for a comic book.
It's like a Ferris Bueller teen drama. I mean,
Yep.
really, because we talked
Yep.
about that last week about it being, and then the more and more they're getting into it, it feels more and more Ferris Bueller-y, the way he breaks the fourth wall, and I love the joke in it. Thought that was
Which one?
fun.
Oh.
That was cool. The whole thing, the ongoing caterpillar joke.
From
So
the
we don't-
first,
we don't want to give it
the
away,
first
but-
page to the end, they actually explain the entire joke.
Yeah, and he
It's-
keeps
it's
getting
fun.
interrupted, and you know, and then you kind of see, I don't know, I kind of liking Veronica a little more after this issue.
Yeah, there's hope for her. There's hope for her. But
I mean-
otherwise, I mean, it was good. Also, speaking of that, Riverdale, though. Have you heard anything about that yet?
What?
Riverdale, the show.
Oh, yeah, on
CW
CW,
show.
right?
Yeah.
Riverdale. It's called Riverdale. No, I haven't heard any more than what I sent you that one point when I got excited. But
it's crazy.
reading the character descriptions, they were a little bit different than they were in the comics. So maybe this could be something because this is so popular that the reason why they've gone dark on it is because maybe they're readjusting.
I would
hope so because I'm sure that was something put in way before this came out.
What if they wait a year, let this series go for a bit, and then they cover the series as the show? Lipstick Incident, they do all of it. How cool would that be?
If the first whole season
really
could be
sweet.
Lipstick Incident.
Yeah, well,
you could.
And don't do a 24 episode CW.
No,
season,
like a
13,
maybe,
like a
maybe the mid-season finale is the Lipstick Incident.
All right, we just wrote something for CW. Done.
CW.
Put it in the books.
You would be. I mean, if they had Flash, Arrow, and Archie.
Yeah.
And
and Legends
Archie?
of Tomorrow.
And this Archie though.
Yeah, you won. Remember
You've
back
won
when you
TV.
used to just air Vampire Diaries all the time,
But-
and One Tree Hill when you bought WB, and I think there's another one that was terrible on your network. But you're good now. Good for you guys.
But I don't want them to mess it up. Like if they mess it up, I'll be real sad.
When do you think critical mass will be for television shows? Because also greenlit on NBC this week was
I'm so excited about that.
Was the Underpowered, the show
There's
about
a-
people living in the DC universe.
No,
it's the Office thing.
It's the Office, so it's people just living in they're not in an office building, but like all the superhero stuff goes around them. But there's a Marvel comic, and I can't remember the name, but I'll put it right in front of me right now. Where it's about the like construction workers and like the insurance agents that have to deal with the post.
I remember that.
So I think that's a fun idea, and so I think it's produced by the Office people and stuff.
Yep.
So I think that's NBC, right? I thought it was NBC.
Yeah, it was NBC.
Yeah.
So we'll have some people from The Office actually in too, I bet. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm really
That'll be
excited about
exciting.
that. Yeah, because it's DC universe, and the more DC universe I can get in my life, the better. CW,
Alright.
the DC network.
There you go. What do you think? So what do you think Marvel does wrong that we don't talk so highly of, like Shield and of? Okay, we love Daredevil and Jessica Jones. So Shield, the shows they have on network television. What do you think that they do?
Apparently they're
It's not the
better
same.
now.
Yeah, but
I can't get into it now. So
it's too deep. You're lost.
Well, it's just, I mean, I tried starting in season 2 because I was like, well, once I realized that the movies and the TV shows were so closely knit,
Very closely knit.
that I had to start watching this and like Agent Carter and stuff like that. I was like, okay, let me give this a shot because I like the Flash and stuff. I think for one, I have too many shows to watch as it is. So adding another show that I'm not already invested in is hard.
Are you enjoying Supergirl?
I haven't watched it.
No.
No.
You illegally watched the first episode.
I did watch the first episode and I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I thought the first episode was really good. I was excited at first. The Martian Manhunter was revealed in it.
Okay.
That was all over the internet. But I was also disappointed that they took away the character that I wanted him to be because his name was Hank Henshaw. The character's name is Hank Henshaw, and he becomes Martian Manhunter. But Hank Henshaw, as everyone knows in the DC universe, becomes Cyborg Superman, and he's one of my favorite villains of Superman and Green Lantern and a bunch of other people. And so I was like, so they took away my Cyborg Superman and gave me Martian Manhunter. It's kind of like a Rosemary's it's Sophie's Choice kind of situation. Because I do love Martian Manhunter, but I also really love Cyborg Superman. So maybe Martian Manhunter took the name of the real Hank Henshaw, who maybe died, and they're going to bring him back as Cyborg Superman later, which I just kind of solved in my head like a couple days ago when I was upset about it.
Oh, perfect.
But because I'm all, I think about these things, I'm like, how could they solve this problem for me? Because also, it's written by the same guys that are writing Flash and Arrow, and they're very comic book.
Yep.
Like they love comic books and they love like the source material, so it's weird to have them mess it up like that or like disappoint someone. So I'm sure that they love Cyborg Superman too, so I'm sure that they'll figure it out.
So let us know in the comments below what you guys find to be your favorite comic book TV show. It could have been one that was on previously and isn't even on anymore. Like, did those exist? Alias. You can call Alias a comic book show,
I mean,
right?
there was the old Superboy TV show, and there was Lois and Clark, and there was Smallville.
I'm thinking that's outside of our demo. Smallville, probably. But let us know in the comments below after you subscribe.
Yeah. Okay. So
Throw that in there.
Yeah. So speaking of comic book TV shows, I was having trouble sleeping this week.
Naturally.
And I was turned on some Young Justice because I've only heard good things about that show.
What is that show?
It's like
Teen Titans?
older Teen Titans. I guess it's
Okay.
not Teen Titans, so it's basically
middle-aged Titans.
the sidekicks. They're like 17, 18. I feel like Teen Titans is kind of like 14, 15.
Okay, all right.
But it's Arsenal's in it, right from Arrow. Arsenal, Red Arrow.
Right.
Roy.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Did not.
But
click it.
he's kind of outside of it because basically the main heroes, you got your Batman, your Green Arrow, your Superman,
in the
Wonder
show
Woman.
were those main heroes?
They're in the show.
Okay.
It's a cartoon though.
Well, yeah.
And they basically are like, we want you guys to have your own thing, even so you're not just hanging out with us and being our sidekicks or whatever. And Red Arrow, or he was Arsenal at the time, gets upset because he's like, I just don't want to be like part of the sidekick B squad, so screw you guys, I'm not gonna do this. But he keeps showing it up
You guys.
here and there, like to help them out or do his own thing. He's like, I'm Red Arrow now, screw you, Green Arrow. He's all Roy, like
Yeah.
classic Roy.
Roided out.
Whoa, your
Sorry.
crew.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so it's Robin, Aqua Lad.
I'm assuming a friend of Aquaman.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna guess these because I
Yeah,
don't know
no,
what
it's
these are.
there's
Robin's Batman.
Martian Manhunter's niece. I can't
I
remember
still
her
don't
name.
know who Martian Manhunter is.
He's that green guy.
He's the really smart one, right?
He's not. I mean, he's an alien. He's from Mars. He's green.
No.
His picture's right here. So his name is John Jones.
John Grisham. Got it.
He was in
Great-
that- he
Great
was-
books.
Okay, so Martian Manhunter's niece, who I can't remember her name at the moment, but whatever. Superboy. And who else is it?
Superboy was the child of Lois and Clark. Lois
No,
and
nope.
or Wonder Woman and Superman, right?
No, Superboy. No, Superboy is a genetic clone of both Lex Luthor and Clark Kent, created by Lex Luthor. And he has actually a like a switch in his head that if Lex Luthor says a certain thing, then he can go evil and crazy.
Whoa.
But like Superman saves him or whatever, and then because he's made in the lab, and then so he basically he does live with the Kents and like is trying to learn this stuff, but he's always has this chip on his shoulder of like he's not really as good as Superman.
A computer chip.
Yeah, and then he also is like always worried about like this relationship with Lex Luthor and like if it's bad or good. And then they just introduced a female Green Arrow sidekick person that I don't know who it is really.
Speedy.
It's not Speedy though.
Oh.
But she's
That's the one I
actually green, but she's a girl that shoots arrows, so you're like, okay, that's cool. And then, but they have like Black Canary show up to teach them like fighting stuff, and Red Tornado is kind of like their like mentor kind of dude that like oversees the Young Justice secret hideout place, and they go on whatever. But I was watching and getting to the
what
actual
is
main
this?
reason.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was watching this, and it starts out with this like cool old dude who's going into like this crystal ball like person reading, those fake people in Louisiana
Yeah,
or
sure.
whatever. And he's like, I'd like to talk to my wife. And she's like, do you have payment? And then she starts going to this. She's like, your wife loves you or something like that. And then he goes, oh, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And she's like, how dare you? And he's like, using a fan and like light show. He's like, that's silly. And she's like, you don't know me. And he's like, oh,
You
I
don't
do. And he's like, I was the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth.
Oh.
And then I was like, Sorcerer Supreme of Earth, but this is DC. And then he has the staff, then he gets taken, and then basically this whole episode about, and then I find out his name is, he's the old Dr. Fate. And I'm like, wait a second. Dr. Fate is the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth, kind of like friend of the show, Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange.
That's a weird connection. Do we have any idea who was made first? Did you happen to look up when either of them
I'm
were
going
produced?
to, no, I didn't look it up, but Stan Lee created Doctor Strange in 1968, so I'm guessing it was first.
Yeah, it was probably first. So that's interesting. I mean, we don't want to harp too much on that because the connections are weird for the names of their objects that they have, which are very similar.
Yeah, so actually I'm going to try to read a bunch of Doctor Fate as much as I can over the next week, or at least a couple, or at least do some research so we could talk about the differences and like similarities. He is definitely a different kind of hero.
Okay.
From what I've seen both in that episode and I read, which I'm going to talk about now, wrapping up the backlog. Dr. Fate #1, the new ongoing series from DC. So they're on issue, I think, 7 or something now, so I just picked up 1. It was pretty good. It's very Egyptian-based lore. So
A very different setting.
yeah, it's not quite. I mean, in the Young Justice show, when you're Dr. Fate, the helmet is what you put on. Like, you put on this helmet, and it's like this really cool gold helmet, which they had in an episode of Constantine, which was pretty cool. In the very first episode of Constantine, you're like, whoa, the Dr. Fate helmet. And so you put it on, and then it's like an ancient Egyptian god of one of them. I think it's the god of order or something. And he basically takes over your body and is the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. But if he dies, then you die. But you're kind of like inside the helmet or like in your own head. Like, it's almost like he takes over your body, and then he basically fights, which seems kind of lame. But I guess you learn stuff, and you talk with this god-like entity, and like, because it seemed like the Dr. Fate old dude
Yeah.
he still had like residual powers. Like he still makes stuff float and do spells and stuff. So I assume that you gain like oneness with like this whatever sorcerer
Everyone's
energy.
connected almost.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
it kind of reminds me actually a lot of the way Thor is in the comic books, where you have Donald Blake and you have Thor. And Donald Blake is an actual scientist guy or like a medic guy that like has a staff, and then when he needs Thor, he just bashes his staff, and the staff becomes the hammer, and he becomes Thor. But they switch body places kind of, so there is not one without the other, but they're two separate people. And so I guess Dr. Fate has changed over the years. It's kind of like Doctor Who, in a sense that whoever has the helmet is Dr. Fate.
Did you like the show?
Which one?
The show where you learned all this from?
Oh yeah, the Young Justice was really good.
Yeah.
It was cool. Oh, and Kid Flash. That's who I was missing.
Fun.
Because he's the one who's like, it's all science, just the thing is magic. Like magic is dumb science. Like, and they're like, you, the person who could run super fast, like doesn't believe in like crazy things like magic. He's like, yeah, because I recreated a chemical experiment with a lightning bolt that my grandfather did, and became Kid Flash, like with science.
Logic.
Yeah, and so it was kind of an interesting like fight between like our things
Sure.
and things being magical, and it introduced magic into that world of science.
Wonder.
Like we always talk about how Doctor Strange and like Iron Fist and like all those shows are kind of inserting more magic into these worlds of science. Because even Jessica Jones, with a character like Kilgrave, who they could have totally let be a magical thing, they made him science based. Spoiler, I guess, by the end of the show. And so you were like,
oh wait, don't. I haven't finished it yet.
I know, but I'm saying like his power was more sciencey than you thought initially. Like 'cause you were assuming like, oh, he's just a mind control guy, you know, like whatever, like a mutant or something. But they made it a level of science.
Okay.
When they could have just made it magic. And so I think it's really going to be interesting once they introduce that. And then Justice League Dark is coming out on the Justice League side. It was rumored to be directed by Guillermo del Toro, but then he might not be doing it. But now that I think that Pacific Rim 2 was officially put on like indefinite hold, he might go back to it, which would be nice because I think Guillermo del Toro would do a really cool job. Because Ron Perlman's supposed to be Swamp Thing.
Oh, cool.
And it's gonna have Dead Man.
They always do stuff together.
Yeah.
From and
Yeah. And so I think that I would appreciate that. Anyway, what was I talking about? Dr. Fate. So the comic book was pretty good. It was really cool in Egyptian, and I know enough about Egyptian gods that it's like, you know, Anubis, and it talks about Anubis and another dog, and like he's like the dog creature, and I was like, I knew it because also I read this great book. Did you ever read American Gods by Neil Gaiman?
No, but I watched The Mummy.
Okay. You should read that book, Chris.
Yeah, you've actually told me about that. Is that the show they're making
On Showtime.
HBO?
Showtime.
Okay. There you go.
It's American Gods. Highly recommended. Anyway, so Dr. Fate #1 is pretty good. I want to keep going. He puts on the helmet at the end. Spoiler, but you knew that was going to happen because it's a volume 1 of something. It's a young kid, and I guess he's a descendant from the pharaohs, I guess, at some point, but he's like an American kid, and so he puts on the helmet. It seems like he's a little more in control of powers he gets, which I think I appreciate, because I was that kind of put me off a little bit, that I was like, so who am I rooting for here? Am I rooting for this guy that I read about outside the helmet, or am I rooting for this like godly creature person that takes over when he puts on the helmet? It's kind of like a, you know what? Yeah. So, but it seems like he's like, my voice is lower, and I have like, he has all this kind of knowledge when he puts on the helmet, and he can like do stuff he doesn't know he can do. So I'm excited to keep reading, and I can't wait to clue you guys in next week.
That'd be exciting.
More of that. And then I read Ghostbusters Volume 1.
When is that? I didn't even know they did comic books for that.
Yeah, well, you did, because when we did an unboxing of the Ghostbusters board game, which had the art from the comic book artist.
See, I thought, okay, that makes sense. I just thought they did like a short run a while ago, and they brought him back to do the art for
No,
the
he's
book.
it's a continuing running series. And also when we talked about the Back to the Future comic, the guy who does the art for the Back to the one, remember there was 2 artists, and the first one I was like, I don't really like how this art's going, and it was like, they said nobody calls me chicken, I got really upset about it. But then they had one where it was the actual story that they're writing for that Back to the Future comic, and I was like, oh, it's the same artist as the Ghostbusters comic artist. So
Volume 1.
Volume 1, it is fantastic, Chris.
What makes it so fantastic?
They nail, the writer nails the dialogue between the characters and their personalities. He must have watched Ghostbusters I don't know how many times. Also, is probably more times than I have, and I watch Ghostbusters a lot of times. But you're reading it, and there's just these little subtle moments of like Venkman talking to Egon that just say things you're just like, that's exactly what they would say. And like, you know, Stans and Zedmore and all of them, and they're all just so perfectly written, and I think it's just so fantastic. They also answered a question for me because I bought the board game, which we just talked about, and there's the characters, the main supervillains in that board game are Slimer, Stay Puft, which are like, obviously, and then Idulinus, I think is his name, and it's spelled. But I was like, I don't know who this guy is. But of course, if I had just read the first volume of the comic, he's like the main villain of the first volume of the comic,
okay,
and I was
so
like,
it's all
oh,
connected.
cool. Now it's all connected. But so good. The writing is great. They have Walter Peck back, who's one of my favorite characters from the original movie.
Which one was that in the movie?
He's the one who has no dick. Do you remember that?
Nope.
So there's
actor-wise.
I don't know. He's not. He's the guy with the beard. He was like the bad guy because he shut them down.
Oh yeah, okay.
And they're like, and he's like, dickless over here. And then the mayor's like, is this true? And then Venkman goes, yes, it is. This man has no dick. It's one of the best lines. Anyway, so I just think that if anyone's a Ghostbusters fan out there, it is. I now have to buy. There's like eight volumes, and I just there's.
Oh, no.
I'm so. But you can get them in 2 separate giant hardcover trades. So I might just do that.
Yeah,
Because it's like $35 per hardcover trade. But
How long has this series been going on for?
Longer than I thought, apparently.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what I was doing with my life before this, because it's everything. Because I think you just assume you're like, how good could it? How could it really capture what the movies captured? You know, it even the video game was canon, right? Because it had all the actors in it, and they even reference the video game. They say, you know. Because the Stay Puft comes back, spoiler, but whatever. Stay Puft, they're worried about Stay Puft, and they're like, well, what's the problem with Stay Puft? Even the rookie took care of that, and that's what they called you the whole time in the video game. And I was like, huh. So, really clever, awesome, loved it.
So Ghostbusters Volume 1, definitely check it out. Check out Volumes 1 through, 8, you're saying?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm excited to keep reading because they just are really nailing the characters.
Still ongoing, though?
Yeah,
okay,
it's
cool.
still coming out.
And then what else?
And then finally, I read The Vision #1. So included in your
Funny way that you read The Vision.
Yeah. So I saw it and I thought about reading it because I was like, okay, but Vision's never been a favorite character of mine. I loved him in Avengers 2. I thought he was great. And so it was included. I was like, this is a really thick SpiderMan Deadpool comic. Well, in the back, I guess I assume because not enough people bought it, but they're proud of it. They put it in there so you kind of read it. It's kind of like when they put a good show right before, or a show that isn't as popular, lead-in show that they want you to watch or right after. So it's pretty good. It's it starts off really kind of interestingly and slow. It's very methodical, kind of like The Vision, because he's kind of a computer kind of person. So it was interesting to see. It's kind of like that constant battle of like AI versus people. So like the wife wants the husband, like they're meeting the neighbors, and they're like in a suburban town, and the wife's like. The husband's like, why would we talk to like a toaster? Like he's a robot. Like this is stupid. And she's like, he's some synth something. I read it on the internet. And he's like, no, it's dumb. Why are you bringing him cookies? They're robots. They don't eat cookies. Like she's like, it's just a nice thing to do. And like they're arguing, and then the Vision's like, oh, welcome into my home. And then you have the mom and the 2 kids, and it is kind of weirdly like Pleasantville-esque because they're robots trying to emulate humans.
Sure.
Well, not robots. They're not whatever. They're AI of some sort of. And so it was really good. And then you're kind of getting like. The kids are having to go to school because of the way that they were created. They still haven't matured in their brain power or something. So the Vision's like, we got to send them to school. And also the wife, her brainwaves are copied off of some person. And I'm assuming, they haven't said, but I'm assuming Scarlet Witch, because I'm pretty sure that they have a relationship in the comic books, and they kind of hinted at it in the movie.
Yep.
So I think her brainwaves are copied off that. And so I think he's struggling with this created love versus like the person he actually loves, and it seemed like he was dealing with that, which was interesting.
So is it more human interaction, emotion kind of a comic book?
It was, and then all of a sudden, the end, it took a real dark turn.
Oh, all right.
I don't want to talk about it, but I was just like, whoa.
Let us know what you guys thought about it if you read Deadpool, Spider-Man #1, or if you just read The Vision #1 on your own. But other than that, that's going to wrap up this week's show, everybody. So I am Chris Gadley, that is Taylor Catcher, and we host this show every week talking about the newest in comics, the stuff in television shows and movies, and then we also do Wrapping Up the Backlog, letters to the editor, which you can email to us or leave a comment. You can go to commentchat@cbxcast.com, and as I said, CBXcast, we are also part of the growing family of podcasts under that network. We've got the Cardboard Box, which has Kyle, hi Kyle, and also Joe and Taylor, where they talk about video games every week. Then we have Real Retro, and then of course there's us.
Yeah, and be sure to check out Cardboard Box this week. We're going video.
That's cool.
It should be exciting. I mean, maybe it didn't work out, and maybe it's just audio again.
All right, we'll see how that works. It should be
awesome. And this week on Real Retro, they had a The Force Awakens roundtable. So they talked about The Force Awakens and their theories and stuff like that. And so if you liked Star Wars like I did and like Chris didn't, you could also watch our spoiler-free reviews. But if you want something spoilery, go check that out.
Yeah, go to our channel after you subscribe, and then you can actually see on the right side, it'll have the Cardboard Box channel you can click over to and see all the videos.
Too, because they're
exactly.
Our family.
All right. Well, hope you guys had a good one. Again, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of your favorite television show related to comic books, what your least favorite was too, what you wish they would make into a comic, and who should run it on what network. Also, sorry guys, Teen Titans TNT show is dead.
Yeah.
Bye.
It happened. That was a really funny ending to that.
Yeah. Well, I meant to say it earlier.
I meant to say it too.
But I
Because when you talked about the workplace comedy thing, I was like, man, we should probably talk about that Teen Titans show getting canceled. But
Yep. There we go. Just sneak it right in there at the end.
Nailed it.
Wow.